Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Abby and today we're going to be making some sourdough. I promised you guys I would do this video and I'm sorry it's taking me a little longer than planned, but here we are, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna grab my recipe. I need to see something really quickly. Okay, it's a little bit different. Okay, so we are going to be making sourdough. And this is Friday night. The sourdough won't be done until Sunday afternoon probably, because I like church and stuff. So that's how essentially long the process takes to do this. It takes a while, but it's worth it. And yeah, so the first step is to create your active starter. So I have this starter and I've fed my starter in a video before, so I'll show you the process of this. I have this new thing to hold my phone when I film, so this part will stick to any surface. Here, let me show you. These are my cabinets, so it'll stick to that, and then my phone will magnet to this. So I have to take my phone case off to get it to stick though. There you are. I bought a different phone case that doesn't have a pop socket on it, so I'm hoping with that case this thing will still work, because it'll be annoying if I have to take my case off all the time. But I actually need to move you down a little bit. So I'll be right back. Okay, I feel like this angle is kind of good actually. Maybe, I don't know, the lighting isn't the best. My light is right there, but all my stuff to bake is right here. So we're just gonna go with it. All right, so here's my starter that's been in the fridge. I fed it last week. Actually, I didn't just feed it, I actually made sourdough last week. I didn't feel like filming. So I have a new jar. I'm gonna take this. I need my food scale, and I need water. So I'm gonna go get the water first, and I'll be right back. I need 150 grams of warm water. So I'm gonna use my food scale to measure out 150 grams of water. If I can get my little measuring cup out. I'll be right back. All right, so I have the water, and it's about 3/4 of a cup. I just like to measure it out in grams. It's a little bit more accurate. Okay, I think I'm gonna lower you guys a little bit more. Okay, I think this is better. You can't see my face, but you don't need to see my face for this. Okay, so we have our food scale. Put this empty. No, I'm gonna put this jar on this. And I'm gonna put the rubber band on the other jar so that I know this is the new jar with the fresh starter in it, and this will become discard whatever's left in here, which I feel like there's not a ton of starter in there at all, but it's fine. I feel like I always feel like that. So I need 50 grams of this starter. So that's about 22. Putting it over here in this jar. I guess I should put it on the screen. I'm gonna do a little bit more than 50 because some of it sticks to my fingers and some of it sticks to the spoon. So I got about 53 in here. Okay, I'm gonna go rinse off my fingers. Okay, now like I said, this jar now is considered discard, so I'll just stick that back in the fridge and I'll use it. You can use it to make all kinds of things. The only thing I've made with discard is tortillas, but I do want to try other things, so maybe one day I will. All right, so I like to mix the water and the starter together first, and then I'll add the bread flour. All right, I feel like that's good enough. I'll stick this on the food scale, zero it out again, and then I always use the King Arthur brand of bread flour, and I need 150 grams of bread flour. All right, 150. I probably could put this in a different container, but I always just use these jars. So I need to just mix this all up. So I'm gonna mix this all up. I just have one of these bigger spoons here, and I'll be back in a second. All right, so here it is. Here is my active starter, whatever you call it. I am not a pro at this. I just started doing it a couple months ago. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. This stuff is what works for me. Your ovens are going to be different. Your temperature in your house is going to be different. It's going to affect your sourdough in so many different ways. So just a forewarning, I'm not an expert, but this is how I've been doing it and how it's been working for me. But yeah, so this is it. Mix it up really good. And I just put one of these like cloth covers on it. You don't want to like fully close it with the lid because I don't know why. You just don't want to like, it needs to breathe, but you also don't want like dust or like flies to fall in it. I don't have flies, but like, I don't know. You just want to keep it covered, but not like sealed. And I'm going to leave it out overnight till I get up in the morning. It's like 9:15 right now. So you want to at least leave it out like 8 hours, but like if you leave it out for 12, like that's fine too. So at least by like 9:30 tomorrow, I want to get started on the next step. Now, if you had a week where you aren't able to bake, you do want to feed your starter once a week. So that first initial jar like this, before I took the stuff out of it, was my starter. And if I wasn't going to bake, I would have still gotten another jar. I would have taken out 20 grams of the starter, put it in this jar. I would have added 100 grams of bread flour and 100 grams of water. The waters are always the same. And then like my one friend who's given me her recipe and stuff, I'm going to ask her if I can share her recipe with you guys. But it's like a 1 to 5 to 5 ratio. So like 20 grams of starter, 100 grams of water, 100 grams of bread flour. But if you wanted like, I think if you wanted more starter, you could do like 40, 200, 200 maybe. But I always just do 20, 100, 100. And then you would leave it out for like 8 to 10 to 12 hours overnight. And then you would seal it back up with the lid and put it back in the fridge for the week if you just didn't have time to bake and you just wanted to feed your starter. So, but in this video, we are going to fully bake. We're going to have 2 loaves, full loaves of sourdough bread by the end of this video. So I'll be back in the morning and we will do the next step. The next process is a way bigger chunk. And I timed it, and this next chunk takes about like 6 hours. So make sure you have like 6 hours in your day you can dedicate. You're not doing something for 6 hours, but you'll see why it takes like 6 hours. So see you in the morning. Hey friends, it's the next morning. So let's check on our starter. Oh my goodness, it really grew. Look, it's stuck. All right, we got a good rise. I don't know that I've gotten a good one like that before. All right, so look how full it is. Okay, this is awesome. So yeah, we're gonna start with that. Something I like to do is I like to fill the sink up with warm soapy water so I can throw anything like covered in sourdough in there and it can soak. And then there's a part in this a little bit later where you have to stretch and fold the dough. So my hands get really gross. So I just like kind of dip them in that water. And I just found that that's easier than like turning the faucet on, waiting for it to get warm and then rinsing it off. If you have just like fill your sink up a little bit with warm soapy water. I found that helpful. So I'm gonna go do that and then we will do this next process. Alrighty guys, the next step is to mix up all the ingredients. There's 4 ingredients. So I have starter, water, bread flour, and salt. So I am actually going to use this baking dish to mix it all in. I don't really have a bowl that's big enough. I have these bowls I was using, but they just get like filled to the brim and I have to stir it very carefully. So I'm going to try using this deep baking dish to mix it all in and see if that works. This is the first time I'm trying that, but we're going to give it a go. So we need 250 grams of this starter. So I'm just going to start pulling that out and just stick it in here. All right, that's like 255. I'm gonna go rinse off my hands and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the leftover starter. I will just stick this back in the fridge and then next week I will either do what I did this week and bake again, or I will just feed it next week. Yeah, so I'm gonna stick this back in the fridge. And then I have water measured out here. So you need 680 grams of water. I do like warm room temperature water. So there's some of it in here, but I couldn't fit the full amount. So I put some more in here. So this is 680 grams. It's like probably like almost 3 cups of water, but I would measure out in grams because that is way more accurate. So I'm just gonna pour this in here. So you're gonna pour most of the water in, but you are gonna save a little bit You'll find out why later. So I'm not going to pour this entire amount. I'm going to leave like about this much in there. Now I need to stir this up. All right, I'm just going to use this. I'm just going to stir this until the starter is pretty much dissolved. Okay, so it's pretty much dissolved. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's all mixed up. There's like little bits of clumps in there, but I don't know if you can even see. See, there's a little bit in there, but it's fine. It's mostly mixed up. And now I have this set on my food scale, as you can see. Throw it out. Okay, there we're good. Now we're gonna add 1,000 grams of this bread flour, same as yesterday. And okay, I'm just gonna pour it in here until it says 1,000. 1,003 grams, but it's fine if it's a little bit off. So yeah, I think this baking dish is gonna work really well for mixing, because I have these other bowls and it was like brimmed to the top and I was stirring so carefully. So you're just gonna mix it up until it becomes like a shaggy dough, kind of. So I'm gonna mix this and then I'll show you. I'll give you a good angle and show you what it looks like. Here's what the dough looks like. I'm just gonna leave it sit, cover it up, and leave it sit for 45 minutes. And then we will come back and do the next thing. Okay guys, I found a different way to put up my little holder for my phone. So hopefully this angle is better for you. So this has been resting for 45 minutes. And the next step is to add the rest of the water and 20 grams of salt. All right, just throw that in there, and then you're just gonna mix it with your hands until you can't really feel the salt anymore. And the recipe says that takes about 4 minutes. So I kind of like keep an eye on the time, but I just mix it with my hands pretty much until I can't feel the salt anymore. So I'm gonna do this and I will be back once it's all mixed in. Alrighty guys, this is how I'm gonna leave it. My hands are pretty gross. I try to pick off like the bigger chunks, but this is where your sink full of hot soapy water will come in handy. I'm just gonna go rinse them off in there. So I'm gonna cover this again and I'll be back in 2 hours. You wanna let it sit 1 to 2 hours, but I always just let it sit for 2 hours. So we'll be back when it's done sitting. All right guys, it's been about an hour and a half, but I'm gonna start my stretch and folds now because my friend's coming over, so I want to like film this part, the first part, before she gets here. So this is called the stretch and folds, and what you do, I'm going to show you how I stretch and fold it, and then you do this, like I'll do the stretch and fold and then cover it again and let it rest for 30 minutes, and then we'll do that again like 4 times. I'll do 4 total stretch and folds with a 30-minute like rest time in between. So let's do the first set. All right, so we have our dough here. It's very sticky. As we go through these stretch and folds, you'll notice how it becomes less sticky. But basically, what you do is you stretch it, fold it, and then go around and do, I just like go in a circle. I do each like of the 4 sides. Stretch it, fold it, and then I'll do it one more round. So I try to just like pull it as much as I can up, and then I'll stretch it out a little bit, fold it over, turn it, do it again. I don't even know what this does scientifically to the dough, but I just follow the directions I was given. And then I'll just do one more. And then I will let it rest for 30 minutes. I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna go clean off my gross hands. So that was the first round of stretch and folds. I also, I have this like cleaning chart here thing, and I just put a tally mark on it just to keep track of how many times I did it, because if I didn't do that, I would totally forget. So I did one stretch and fold. So in 30 minutes, we'll come back and do another, and then another, and then another. And my friend told me, like, the recipe says 4-ish times. She says you want to keep doing it until the dough doesn't stick to your hands anymore. So typically I just do 4 and then I'm like ready to be done with it. But if you feel like you need to do like a 5th or 6th one, totally can. But like the basic idea is you want to wait until the dough like barely is sticking to your hands. So yeah, we're gonna let that rest, and then I'll do the other 3 stretch and folds when it's time. After I did that last stretch and fold, I let the dough sit for another 30 minutes. So here is what we're working with. We're gonna split this into 2 pieces. To do that, I do measure it out on the food scale and stuff to make sure it's fairly even. So I will angle you back down so you can watch me do that. Okay, so I'm gonna take the dough out of here, and then see how much it weighs. Oh my goodness, I don't know why it does this. Okay, now I'll zero it out, and then I'm gonna stick it on. It's still kind of sticky, but I'm not doing another stretch and fold. All right, 1886, so let me do the math real quick. It's 943 grams a piece. So I'm gonna clear it out again, and then just try my best to split it in half. I'm gonna clear it out again. It's 944, so I'm not gonna worry about it being a little bit off. So now we have 2 pieces here. All right, so I'm gonna take one of the pieces, and they tell you just to like stretch it out into kind of like a rectangle. That's what I'm kind of doing. All right, and then what you do is like you kind of just fold them into each other like this. It's gonna start sticking to that other dough ball. Sorry guys, this isn't the most like beautiful way to do it, but then you roll it up and kind of like do this, and then we're gonna let it sit, and we'll do the same thing to this side. Just kind of stretch it out. Then I'm gonna do the same, just fold it into itself a little bit. Usually I put it on the counter and do this, so it gives me more space, but I don't feel like making a huge mess. And this pan like is big enough where I can kind of just do it without putting it on the counter. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna cover these for 10 minutes. And while that's sitting for 10 minutes, I don't think I set my timer, but I'll just use the clock. I'm gonna get my, sorry, my phone holder is making a noise. I'm gonna get my these are called bannetons, I think. They're just these little like bowls. They have this cloth thing, and you can use them with the cloth thing or without. This is actually only the 2nd time using these banneton bowls. I think I'm saying that right, but I was just using like normal bowls that I had, but I got these for Christmas, and they do work a lot better than like just sticking it in a bowl. I am gonna just get some more of the bread flour and kind of just flour around the edges of this. So I'm gonna do that to both of these bowls, and I'll be back once like the dough is done setting. Alrighty guys, it's been a little over 10 minutes, but it's fine. I am gonna do that same exact thing again. So we're gonna stretch these back out into kind of rectangles. Oh my goodness, it's gonna get stuck on this one. I'm gonna move this guy. I'm gonna stick it in one of the bannetons for a second. Just gonna stretch it out in somewhat of a rectangle. Isn't very rectangle-y, but it's all good. So we're gonna fold it in, and roll it up. Now, some people might do this differently than me. I don't know. This is just how I do it. But then we're going to stick it in the flowered banneton, but with the seam side up. And then we're going to do the same thing with this other one. I'm going to stretch it out. And sorry, that was my phone thing again. We're going to fold it in. Roll it up. And kind of like, I don't know, just like pull the edges all down and around, I guess. And then we'll stick this in the banneton, seam side up, and then I'm going to just cover these both with a towel, and we're gonna let them sit for 15 more minutes. Alrighty guys, it's been 15 minutes, and the next part is to like pinch the seams together, I guess. Like, see where it's kind of like open a little bit. I'm not really sure why, but this is what the directions told me to do, so that's what I do. I'm gonna do it in this one, and then, sorry, you couldn't really see that. I have these reusable, they're just bigger versions of the thing I put on the jar last night. I'm gonna cover them both. And then I'm gonna stick them both in the fridge for 12 to 48 hours is what it says. I will just, it's 2:30 right now, so I will just do the next step of these probably when I get back from church. Just depends on when I wake up in the morning. If I like get up at like 7 and I have time, I'll bake them then. But if not, I will just do it when I get home from church. But the longer you let it sit in the fridge, the more like sour it becomes. Like, not in a bad way, but you know how some sourdough bread and toast has like a really sour taste to it. The longer you let it sit, the more like sour it can taste. But I've done bakes after church before and it's been fine, and I've done bakes before church and it's been fine. So we'll just see. It depends on when I get up in the morning. But I feel like there was one more thing I was gonna say. Apparently it's not that important. So yeah, just stick these in the fridge and tomorrow we will bake everything. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. I always do this at some point during the process. I'm gonna stick, this is the Dutch oven you're gonna bake your sourdough in. You do wanna have a Dutch oven because for part of the bake, you leave your lid on, and that steam for the first part of the bake is what makes it rise up. So you really do need a Dutch oven. There are ways to do it without one, but you need a Dutch oven. So I'm gonna stick this in the oven now, because when you're preheating your oven, you want to have your Dutch oven in your oven while it's preheating, so it also gets warm. So I always just throw it in at some point during this part of the process, so I don't forget tomorrow morning when I preheat my oven. So I'll be back tomorrow when it's time to bake. Good morning, friends. It is the next day. My body woke me up at 6:30. I tried to go back to sleep for a while, but that's not happening. So it's like 20 after 7. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 450. And remember from yesterday, my Dutch oven is already in the oven, so it will preheat with it. And according to the directions, you want to let your oven heat to 20 more minutes than when the oven says it's preheated. Now, my oven does not let me know when it's preheated, so I just do it for like 40 minutes. So it's like 7:20 right now, so at 8 o'clock I will come in and throw in the first loaf. And I also pulled the first one out of the fridge. I'm gonna leave it covered and let it just sit out while the oven's preheating. Yeah, so I'll be back once it's time to throw this sucker in the oven. Alrighty, friends, it's just about time to put this in the oven. So here it is. I'm going to stick it on this parchment paper. We have to score it first. So I'm gonna dump it out of there, brush the excess flour off, and then I guess you score it so air can escape. I don't really know. So I have this thing. And this is just the design I always do, because that's what my friend did in a video that I watched of hers. But you can get creative with this and do all kinds of different designs. And like I said, I have this little thing, and you can, before I got this, I just used a knife. So if you don't have one of these, you can totally just use a knife. I will say this thing works way better, but knife is fine if you don't have one. Okay, so I'm gonna take the Dutch oven out, and we're gonna put the bread in. All right, then we're gonna bake it for 25 minutes with the lid, and then we are gonna bake it without the lid for a little bit longer. But first step, bake it for 25 minutes with the lid. So I forgot, we wanna take the other one out to just sit out on the counter while that one is baking. Alrighty guys, it's been 25 minutes, so I'm going to take off the lid. And then I'm gonna take this cookie sheet and just stick it on the rack below the Dutch oven. This will kind of block some of the heat so that the bottom doesn't get too brown. And then I'm gonna bake it for 14 more minutes. Okay guys, the first loaf is done. Just pulled it out, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this second loaf. I need to score it, and I'm gonna bake it exactly the same. And hopefully it turns out just as good. Alrighty guys, I baked the second loaf. Here's how it turned out. It definitely turned out a little bit different than this one. Honestly, I don't know why. It just did. It's like 10 o'clock. I took the other one out. I've been letting them cool for a little bit. You want to let them cool for a couple of hours. So I will just leave these out until I get back from church. But I think the directions say like 2 to 3 hours. You just want them to completely cool, and yeah, before you start cutting it and stuff. I don't know if anything terrible would happen if you wanted it like warm. But I always just let it cool, because I am gonna just cut these in half and freeze them because I have other loaves in there. So I'll do that later when I get back from church, and I'll show you. But yeah, so I'll see ya later. Alrighty guys, it is about 1:20 right now, so the loaves have been sitting out for a couple hours. I just got back from church. I'm gonna cut them in half, and I'll show you what the middle looks like. Here it is. Looks good. So what I do, I just put each half into a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna throw them in the freezer, because I will not eat them fast enough and they will mold. So that's what I do. All right, let's cut the other one. Now, if you notice, this one's not as brown and it's not as like crispy, and I have no idea why. I think it just has to do with the oven, and I don't know. But I did exactly the same thing with this one. But I don't know. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But it's still good. Here's the inside of this one, and I'll just put each half of the loaf in a Ziploc bag, stick it in the freezer. I'm gonna see how many, yeah, I have 2 halves in there right now. So that'll last me for a couple weeks. So I might not bake any next week. I don't know, but I might, you never know. But yeah, so that's my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's how I make sourdough, and I will link, it's a Google Doc. I will link below of the recipe that my friend gave me, and I will also link her Instagram down there too if you want to go check out her Instagram. She posts videos of her baking bread and stuff, so definitely go check her out if you want to. And I just want to give her credit for the recipe that I'm sharing with you, because it's not mine. It's very detailed, very involved. You can tell she put a lot of work into it. So I'm very much appreciative that she shared it with me, and she's allowing me to share it with you. So let me know if you're gonna try out some sourdough. If you have any tips for me that I could be doing better, let me know. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And if you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, press that subscribe button if you haven't already. And also let me know in the comments what other like sourdough discard stuff I should do. I really want to try Pop-Tarts. I want to try chocolate chip cookies. I don't know what other, but there's so many sourdough discard recipes. So give me some ideas in the comments. And yeah, so I'll see you in my next one. Bye.